So hello, Colleen Thomas.
Hello.
Good to see you again.
You too.
When did we speak? It was just before, was it 2019? It must
2020.
Oh, we spoke during 2020?
And it was
Oh,
February, right before
wow.
the show.
Just before
happened.
everything happened. Yes. So, in that time, I was just reviewing some really exciting conversation we had.
I know, we had such a good one.
We went
Can we just
along.
play that?
Tyler said to me, they only have to be a half an hour.
No, we did.
This one's for the records. I mean, that talk, I think, should be part of our archives. A lot of important things were mentioned. The name of the piece, I understand things have changed.
Things have changed.
But the name
for
has
all
not
of us.
changed.
The name has not changed.
It's
Light
light,
Desire.
Light and Desire or Light Desire?
Light and Desire.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and it's gotten, it hasn't changed, even though we've all changed and everything
Yes.
has changed. But I think it's gotten so much more clear, so much deeper. I remember that last talk we had, and you asked me about the title and about what it meant, and it had this feeling of, what we want, how we move forward, the light that we have inside of us. But this got so much clearer in this last year, really, for all of us, I think, sort of what we really want, what we value, how we want to interact in the world, and I think it's insane what we've all
Well,
been
it's
going
amazing,
through,
isn't it?
yeah.
In the way that you as a person who practices Zen, you're interested in Buddhism,
Yeah.
would understand it's almost a gift, isn't it? That slap that we all had,
Yeah.
that now are we paying closer attention and what have you.
Yeah.
So much good information was on that last talk, and you say a lot hasn't changed formally, right?
Well, only because I haven't been with the people.
Oh.
We've been on Zoom, so it doesn't feel real.
Talk about that. How have you
Yeah.
maintained your community and the community of dancers and all?
Yeah, we have 5 artists from all over the world. Ildiko's from Hungary and lives in Germany. Ermira is from Albania, lives in Greece. Joanna lives in Poland. Carla, who is from Venezuela, lives in Miami, and LeBlanc lives in California. So we have not been together, but we immediately started, right when we all got shut down, just started communicating and writing about.
Regularly, you do?
Yeah, we did it for some publications at the beginning, to sort of talk about our collaboration and what we were going through and sort of how we were dealing with it and how different countries were dealing with it as well, and it was very different for everybody. Europe was ahead of us with COVID, and then we were ahead of everybody with the vaccine, and then America wasn't giving the vaccine to, Germany, where they made the vaccine. There's like certain things that were just crazy. But the nut of the piece, the seed of the piece, was always about how women artists persist and how you survive and how you move through and how you keep creating, even in harder times. We began with fascism and coming out of the trauma of Trump and then coming into this new place. So we all just sort of started talking about how we're surviving, how do you stay positive? How do you keep moving forward?
So the piece itself is a survival strategy, I imagine. A group of strong, committed women find a form organized around an artist through which they can exercise their agency. Is that one way of looking at it?
Yeah, definitely. We started sharing our experiences, which are always enlightening when you have collaborators and you're working with different ideas, and really sharing how it is, really just how our sensibilities are and how we were. And it wasn't like we're moving forward right away. Right away we were shut down, and I'll just speak personally. It's challenging for all of us. Yeah. And so, how are you're living in your home with your family all the time, and small apartments. Your school kids are on Zoom. Some of the Roz is a mother. I'm a mother. We're dealing with how our children are handling it, and So, you know, and there, in this group is also a chorus of 11 women,
Right.
Younger
Yeah,
women.
I think you said 15 at that time.
Yeah, we lost a few. We not lost them like lost them, but we, you know, people moved out of the city.
Mhm.
One woman got pregnant, and so yeah,
Mhm.
so the baby could be in the baby. So no, but there is people moved and people, 3 of them moved, and yeah, one was
Mhm,
pregnant.
mhm. Well, you know, I was thinking a couple of things as you're speaking. How can we, or maybe I'm wrong, how can we have this conversation and not have the artistic conversation be completely controlled by COVID? Now, what do you think about that even as a question? I mean, why wouldn't it be relevant to talking about the work, to talk
Yeah.
about COVID? Do you have a feeling about that? Just get it out of the way.
I
and
think
move on.
when I was thinking about talking with you, I was thinking, you know, I mean, that's what we all talk about all the time
Mhm,
right now, and that
mhm.
we're just at the beginning of like figuring out how to move into with people, you know?
Mhm, mhm.
Schools are starting, how do you like be with a lot of people? And I think we're so honest, how could you not talk about it? That is what it is. This is reality. We are moving through it. You know, it might feel slower than we wanted, but we are moving through it. And we are finding nuances in our lives that are valuable, very valuable and precious, you know?
Could you give an example? What do you mean?
I think just sort of like I'm thinking about like when you were at the park at Nyack that you never went to, right? That was a long time ago, but like,
Yeah.
you know, like with nature, we all started going
Mhm.
out into nature more and appreciating what was right in my, you know, I live on Riverside Park right there. I've
Mhm.
never, you know, now I've been there bike riding to Washington, to the bridge, you know, it's just, I never did that stuff. So I
Mhm.
really started to appreciate nature and, you know, communicate with the people that matter to me and my family and friends that, you know, I hold close and really also trying to, and also I think I realized just how crazy in New York City, busy and insane I was, and did I need to be doing that? Did I need to be in that kind of rat race?
I know.
You know?
I felt that as well. And it's interesting now that it's opening back up again, I do find it does consume, particularly when you're making something, right?
Yeah.
But you know, I wonder if our listeners would appreciate a kind of an overview on what they should expect in the work. And we went through this before, but maybe let's go through it again.
Yeah. So there are 6 soloists, these women from other countries, and they're sort of the core of the piece. And then there are 11 chorus members that wear these beautiful floral masks by Rebecca Makis, and you know, this piece had international people and had a chorus of people, so, and had masks, and it was very not anti-COVID.
It was before COVID.
Right, it was before COVID.
What was behind those masks?
So then, at the beginning, it was about this chorus is sort of this social protest, this feminist protest of women. And it's I was inspired by these young people that are making change happen, that have this world that we have left them with, and they are out there and they are making change. And I just thought, and I'm very, very inspired by the students I have at Barnard, because they're brilliant. They care deeply about the environment and the social justice, and it's something that is now taught in schools and you know, important.
No, well, what do you mean? Consciousness of the environment and social change?
Yeah, I mean, in my children's school, like they have programs and curriculum around this, so it feels like they come home talking about stuff I never even learned in school, you know. So I was really inspired by just their strength and power, and since this piece was about how we hold our power, how women hold our power, even when you know, at the beginning it started with this misogyny around Trump, and it's sort of this blanket that was uncovered all of this ugliness that I sort of probably always felt viscerally, but didn't really understand how clear it was, you know, until I heard, you know, families say, I just didn't want to vote for Hillary because I just don't like her, you know, or something like that.
I know.
So it's, you know, this sort of misogyny against this hatred of women that I even think is embedded in me, you know, just that we do to each other. It started with that, and then it's sort of like, I shared that, we shared the process with the chorus as well, and so we started making this work with us all coming together and sort of expressing
Now the chorus
that.
always has been all women, or has it?
It has always been women, yeah, female identifying, yeah. And
Oh, may we stop here a moment?
yeah.
Today, reading in The Guardian an article about Judith Butler. And of course, they're interviewing her about the byline, the caption is, Judith Butler thinks that we should rethink the category of woman. And now, you know, and she's really, what do you think about that? You say female identifying.
Yeah.
Is that reflected in the?
It's not, but only because I think I made this piece and cast this piece a year and a half ago, or 2019. But I have thought about it in the process of making this piece. In the process of the last 2 years of having friends and family transition and having students transition, and sort of like thinking that, yeah, I mean, we're all feminine and masculine, so I feel like that what we're speaking about in this piece has a lot to do with how you look on the outside, how you're objectified on the outside, you know, so it does have to do with how you look, but everybody experiences that has that sort of quality in themselves, you know.
Well, hopefully we'll have another opportunity to talk about this. This is really plaguing me right now. How to get it right. You know, as Judith Butler was saying in this article, her whole life someone has been pronouncing her or mispronouncing her or projecting gender onto her.
Right.
Yeah, she does accept. I think she loves they onto them, right?
Yeah.
So it's very difficult when you're trying to be inclusive. I think you're inclusive, but you say this is a work very much about something about the resiliency and power of women.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to fall into that trap. You mean no to men? No, I think it demands something of male allies. That they make room for that in themselves. But, so we should return to this because all strong identity right now. As you know, for years, gay identity was important to me. Black identity is important to me. But then when you talk about the we, which is an ultimate goal, I think the ultimate goal.
Yeah.
What happens to those of us who want to have strong identity with the same, by the same token, be porous? Are you feeling that the work, should we expect to see what is porous in your worldview around this question of identity in the work?
I think you do see it. I mean, I think that what is so beautiful about these artists is their honesty and their individuality, and nobody's trying to, you know, there's no conformity in any way. And if you see any kind of conformity, we're commenting on something. So it feels vulnerable and it feels connected because we're trying to sort of show a snapshot of this point in time where women and where these people have been, I don't want to say only objectified, but treated differently, where they've been in the meeting and not heard, where they've been ignored, where they've been told, you know, not to do that with their legs because it looks too sexual, or where they've been told, you know, by their mother or something, you know what I mean?
Mhm,
Like,
mhm.
just a life of going through this sort of you shouldn't be in this room, you shouldn't be here right
Mhm.
now, you know, you're not enough, you know?
Interesting. Let's talk briefly for those persons who maybe don't know your work as well as they should. How does you use the word dance? I mean, I find myself resisting the word dance. As you know, here at New York Live Arts, we say body-based investigation, body-based whatever. Well, let's talk about dance and how dance works in this work. And what is your feeling about dance?
Yeah, in this work, well, dance to me now, today, is really just an exploration of movement and a research of the body, a research of internal, chemical, physical, organs, muscular, bone, everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's this physical research that we do. And maybe my tone, my energy tone is a little bound or high. Everybody has a different sort of energy tone. But all of the artists that I am working with are very experienced improvisers.
Mm-hmm.
I do contact improvisation, I teach improvisation, I practice, we practice improvisation to make movement, right? So, and all of the artists that I'm working with are choreographers and experienced professionals in this field. So they all have their own body of research and their own practice that they bring to the table. So
Now, was that a criteria in your casting? You wanted mature, self-evolved sort of intellects working with you, as opposed to your students from Barnard?
yeah, I mean, the students aren't students anymore, so they'd probably appreciate that I'd say they've graduated.
Good for
So
them.
they're
Congratulations.
professionals.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the cast are all old friends. I mean, some 20 years. I've known Roz 20 years, at least maybe 30 years. So it's been a long time that I've known these women. They're strong women in the field. They're all running festivals in other countries. They're choreographers, you know, making huge group pieces at the Greek opera. Like these are accomplished women. I wanted strong, accomplished women, and they were also women that I have worked with in the past. You know, they either lived here and I worked with them in the city before they moved back, or I worked with them on a residency. Carla I met in Venezuela and did a residency with her. So I knew them. They're like family, and we know what the practice is like, and yeah, and they're amazing dancers. So they're inspiring to be in a room with, and they're creative. And the chorus, the criteria is that they were strong women that cared about this subject.
When you say strong women, in what way? Strong.
Mindful and caring and thoughtful, and have a drive to make change in the world and do something that is so challenging, you know, especially now, to be an artist and to put art out there and to think that's enough, and that's giving to the community, and that is giving to our lives in general, you know, like these people.
You agree that is enough.
Yes.
That's a lot.
Yes, that's a lot, and and especially I think we were all tested in this last year about whether that was enough, if that was a lot, you know, and yeah, and it just made it so much stronger, the connection between all of us. And
you mentioned contact improvisation, and once again, there comes COVID again. But how do you feel about the unfettered access to another human's sweat and breath and all of those things now?
I miss it, you know. But yeah, we're not.
Have you been able to come back?
Yeah, we're
it?
not there yet. I mean, I have in rehearsal with and my husband is a contact improviser, so we've been able to do it in rehearsal, but not a lot, and not with many people, and we're, you know, I'm not teaching it. We're not having it, holding those classes, and so it's not time yet to go back to that.
Yes, yeah, but it is something that you think is important to your practice, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's like meditating, you know, it's sort of like just sort of being in the moment and following your partner's movement and weight and breath and being there for each other and being vulnerable enough and knowing, trusting that they have you too. You know, it's like so many important lessons in it that, yeah.
Well, let's talk about form for a moment. You are the director, right? So you came to these women, many of them are friends or new friends, old friends, and you said, I have an idea. Now, how does that continue through? Is there a score that Colleen developed? Is it a score that comes from the group?
So what I did was I traveled to each person wherever they live, and I worked with them one-on-one. So we would work on solo material around how things transfer into the body. We did a lot of little studies of
things transfer into the body.
Yeah, right. how feelings, emotions, situations. We talked a lot about how we, anytime you felt objectified in your life, or if. I mean, I have to think back. It was so long ago, but it was, we were in America, in our very privileged America. We were traumatized by the fact that this person could be president after he said I just grabbed him by the pussy, like that this was okay, and they just didn't like Hillary. So it's just sort of, we were traumatized by that, and
So that was a kind of a prompt.
It was a prompt.
2016 was a prompt for your group of collaborators.
Yeah, and that's when I started talking to these people, and I started, there's a lot for each of them, different situations in their country, and that's when I started to realize, well, we're complaining here, but we are very privileged. They're really sort of stories, now with. I'm just thinking about the abortion ban in Texas, but Poland is having all these protests about because their abortion laws were made in the middle of the night, and then they were protesting on all the women were out on the street, just these crowds of people, So we would talk about our own personal experiences and then see how they became universal.
Now that talk.
Yeah.
How does that talk? I know it's very difficult, but I'm thinking that we have a public here listening to it. How does that talk and those feelings translate into gesture and movement?
Well, we improvise and we talk about this feeling of tension in I'm just giving examples, tension in your chest and where that comes out and how that comes out and how you express yourself and when you can't express yourself and how you come back, and the tension that you hold when you're in that room and you can't say what you want to say, or you do say it and you get shut down, or we had different little studies where we could express how it physically goes through, and then there were sort of prompts that I would give to a group that would be a more form prompt rather than a physical content.
Spatial relationships?
Yeah, spatial, and how the group would come in and when they would come in and how they, see how they interacted when they were in a certain space in the room, and then we also took other, sort of iconic things iconic content, sort of like I don't know if you remember this, but they use this Robert Palmer song, Addicted to Love.
I remember very well.
So I was 15 when that came out, and I used to watch that and just watch those women, and I would be objectifying those women, and I would be thinking, oh, look at how she's holding her lips, and look at how, and look, she looks different in that dress than the other girl. They're all wearing the same thing, hair's all the same. They're all
like fashion models.
Yeah, and void. They had it was just him in the front singing, and they're doing step touch something,
But as I remember, and it seems like a lot of people were turned on by it, a lot of men were turned on, there was something very powerful in there, at least maybe I thought, well, that's what the point is. Rock and roll gods, and there's now a chorus of goddesses who he's addicted to.
I know. And then
You know?
I think we all had different perceptions of it and took it different places. And in my like hormonal 15-year-old body, there were a lot of things going on, you know? So
Right. Well, okay. You talked about the mask, and no, that this is not a statement of it's. This is not COVID prescience,
Yeah.
you know? But it's something rather beautiful and sort of a bit surreal, right?
Yeah.
What else would you tell us about costume, decor, and lighting that is important to you, and that
Yeah.
is important to you?
Well, the piece has a beautiful film that Carla Forte made also in the work, and that in that film there's sort of this, you go a little bit deeper into the 6 women that are in the work because it's very close up and it's sort of like a slow motion of these women. And so you see, you know, a lot of detail in it, a lot of ugliness in it, a lot of...
Literally your performers.
Yes, us.
Without the mask.
Without the mask, yeah, and you see us, and you see, you see that it's very vulnerable and grotesque in a way, and the masks are grotesque in another kind of way, you know. I think when Rebecca started with the idea of the masks, it was this sort of phallic, a lot of them are phallic, with the flowers, sort of phallic sculptures, and it was sort of this beauty that could, this weird beauty that could, that these, because the chorus are the people that wear the mask, so they're sort of like the potential. They're the like
Not the male,
flourishing.
not the male principle, but the potential for
The power. For equal power, for the power that this sort of like, you know, and they're sort of these flourishing souls, you know, they're sort of this like, so I think, I mean, there's a lot more that Rebecca could say about the mask. I don't want to like, you know, talk about her art.
And music?
And the music's by Robert Boston, and he created an original score, and there's also some samples of Jo Morris, who has this beautiful, she's also a Barnard alum from way back, and she has a band in Louisiana, and she's a beautiful voice, and so he samples her, and he's doing, it's sort of, it's a mix of many different things, but he does electronic music mostly, and he's, it's pretty, and there's a little sampling of little Robert Palmer, there's a little...
So there are, is the work the sort of thing that you've got to get in condition for? And if so, do you feel you are in condition for it?
Isn't that such an interesting question, like for all of us? Like, what's so crazy is I felt so much better after being forced to rest. My body felt so much better, you know, like my injuries and my, you know, just sort of got better. But then coming back into the studio and also dancing with the mask on is a little challenging.
Tell
right?
me about it. Yeah.
That's a little challenging. But there is, but you know, during, like, I rode my bike every day. I took Feldenkrais. I took ballet class. I haven't taken ballet in the last 10 years. I took it every day in my apartment online.
Are the demands of the choreography, do you need to be on your leg and strong core, all of those things?
You need to be strong enough to be able to let it go. So you need to be able to fall and catch yourself and come back. And you need to, and that I feel like is the most extreme dynamics of, you know, going to the ground and coming up, and those are things that you need to have a conditioning for.
Is there phrase work? Is there
There is some phrase work. Yeah, I mean, we did some of the process was making stuff together, you know, so it wasn't ever me trying to think. I don't think it was ever me making a whole phrase and then we do it, you know. That doesn't happen. It was more talk about a subject, share different ideas about it, bring it into the body, start to make work with it, say yes to that, say, you know, catching and stuff like that.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Well, Colleen, we're really excited to have you be one of the first spirits moving through here, and it's going to be in the studio.
It's going to be in the studio.
And you purposely, as you told cis women who are babies, are children,
Yeah, well, I think only 2 of us have children.
Only 2?
Yeah,
Okay.
only 2.
Well, then what is the quality of being believing enough in producing more life for this place, which is a very troublesome place right now? What is that about?
Yeah, I mean, there has to be some kind of hope, right? And
Hope.
some kind of, So, yeah, I mean, there is that, even though, I mean, sometimes when you see something's about feminism, or I think people have this idea of like, oh, it's just a bunch of angry women, but I think that there is so much humor and so much sort of like ironic, like, look at this, we're all human, and look at how we treat these different types of people. Look at how we treat our fellow earthmates. It's just sort of.
And you think that's a perspective that is pretty not unique, but that fits more naturally with female.
Yeah, I mean, I think the female perspective is different, and I think that, like I said, that even I didn't, as a woman, maybe felt uncomfortable sometimes, but didn't understand really as fully as I understand right now, and I'm sure I'll understand more later. But I just think that if it's not your perspective, if it's not your life and you're not living it, then it's hard to understand it, even if you're the most compassionate person in the world.
True. It really is.
I think that's why some people are, don't think maybe COVID is such a bad thing, because they're not living in a place where, like we did, where it blew up, and
No, it's true. Well, Colleen, I won't keep you longer, but Giovine, thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you so much. I'm so grateful.
Looking forward to the show.
Me too.
And much love. And so for all those persons watching us, this is our second conversation, and I really encourage you to seek out the first one, because I think they work very well together. The piece is called
Light and Desire.
Light and Desire, and it will be running from
September 15th through the 18th.
Bravo. Thank you, and thank you.
Thank you so much.